Gwen Stefani is one of the stranger pop stars of the 2000s. Her solo output, mainly her first two records, were a little more experimental and eccentric than her contemporaries, and established a strong musical identity that proved she could stand on her own, separately from her origins as the frontwoman of No Doubt. While Gwen's 2000s output, especially her solo debut, Love Angel Music Baby, is beloved nowadays, there was initially some apprehension and fear that her solo career wouldn't pan out. Gwen started recording solo material in 2003, being inspired mainly by 1980s electro and new wave music. At this point, she wasn't sure if she was just gonna do soundtrack singles and collabs, or if she was gonna do a full-on solo album, though Interscope Records CEO Jimmy Iovine convinced her to do one, which she wasn't exactly thrilled about. Gwen admitted she was nervous to be collaborating with different songwriters after being with her band for 17 years, which makes total sense. She was probably comfortable with how things were with No Doubt, so to be working with new people must have felt intimidating. She first met with famed songwriter Linda Perry and wrote a song called Fine by You, which ultimately didn't end up being on the final product. According to Linda, Gwen was reluctant to be there and still wasn't comfortable with the idea of going solo. Sensing her fear, Linda wrote a song after their session had ended, which she played for Gwen the next day. This song became What You're Waiting For, the lead single from Love Angel Music Baby, and was about Gwen's nervousness and fear of going solo. The lyrics spell it out plainly, with the whole song being a sort of internal battle between her nervous side and the side that wanted to go solo. It's like a mini drama that plays out in less than 4 minutes. You really feel a sense of urgency listening to it, thanks to the chaotic production, the repeated TikTok refrain, and Gwen's eccentric delivery. It's really a song anyone could relate to, since I'm sure we've all had times where we were afraid to do something out of our comfort zone. I know whenever I'm in a situation like that, this song just naturally comes to mind. It's equal parts relatable as it is motivational, and even though it wasn't the absolute biggest song when it came out, it was still a perfect way to launch her solo career. The album itself dropped in November 2004 and was instantly successful, debuting at number 7 on the US Billboard 200 with over 300,000 copies sold, and went on to peak at number 5. Looks like Gwen didn't really have much to worry about going solo. The next single, the Dr. Dre produced Rich Girl, was released in December 2004 and became a smash hit. The track was Gwen's second collaboration with Eve, after the 2001 bop Let Me Blow Your Mind. Rich Girl is actually a remake of a 1993 song of the same name by the British duo Lucci Lu and Michi One, which itself was a remake of the song If I Were a Rich Man from the musical Fiddler on the Roof. The track sees Gwen singing from the perspective of her younger self, who dreams of being rich. I understand the concept, but even as a kid, I always found it funny that she was saying if I was a rich girl, when she literally was an A-list celebrity and had one of the biggest singles in the country. I also loved the video growing up. I used to really love the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, so seeing Gwen in this campy, totally ridiculous pirate-themed video was really fun to me. Rich Girl was another hit for Gwen, though she topped it with her next single, 2005's Holla Back Girl. Produced by the legendary duo The Neptunes, this song was inescapable in the mid-2000s, which was either a very good thing or a very bad thing depending on your feelings towards it. Holla Back Girl was written as a response to a comment Courtney Love made about Gwen in an interview with 17 magazine, where she compared Gwen to a high school cheerleader. Now, I'd personally be flattered if someone called me a cheerleader, but apparently that was insulting to Gwen, as she never was one, so she went on to write Holla Back Girl as a response. I love petty beef like this in music. It's just so funny to me that she was so shook by being called a cheerleader that she literally made a whole song and video being one. Good for her, honestly. She doubles down and got a #1 single out of it. Regardless of whether you hate or love it, you can't deny the song is catchy as hell, and certainly memorable. I love it, but I also get why people hate it. It's brash, in your face, and noisy, with its blaring horns and marching bands motif. I just think it's dumb fun, and it certainly made an impression on everyone who listened to it. The next single, Cool, slowed things down a bit, being a synth-pop ballad about her previous relationship with No Doubt bassist Tony Kanal, and how they remain friends despite them having moved on to new partners. Gwen originally had no intentions of putting anything this personal on L.A.M.B. but said it just naturally came out during the writing process. Thank God it did, because this is my personal favorite single from L.A.M.B. I have never been in a situation like this, but I've still cried to this song a lot. I just love how she sounds at peace with where her life ended up, giving the song a sense of hopefulness, complemented by the new wave synth-pop production, reminiscent of Madonna's early work. But there's also an underlying sadness to it, where you could tell Gwen truly wanted things to work out with her and Tony, but that dream is now dead and gone. It's a more complex and nuanced song than it appears to be on the surface, and that's why I can't get enough of it. And clearly things were cool with Tony and Gwen, as they co-wrote the next single, Luxurious, together. A sexy, laid-back R&B ballad, Luxurious sees Gwen using fancy items, such as diamonds and limousines, as a metaphor for her relationship with her then-husband Gavin Rossdale, who's actually featured in the song as that kind of creepy male voice saying those French lines. I always lump this song in with Fergie's Glamorous as the ultimate mid-2000s rich bitch songs. They make me feel way classier and elegant than I actually am. Luxurious didn't have the same amount of success of the previous singles, but still did pretty well considering it was the 5th single released, almost a year after the album itself. The 6th and final single, Crash, was released in January 2006. This song is horny excellence. I love a good car sex metaphor, and the song is so ridiculously on the nose about it. Drive back, baby, to me, fast in your car. I'm here waiting, crash into me real hard. The girl wanted to be plowed, and I ain't talking about snowplows. Crash is such an underrated track. It really does sound like something from the 80s with its electro-pop production, and Gwen's performance is so over the top and gives the song so much personality. It's also just catchy as hell. When I was first getting into this album, this was the song I couldn't stop listening to, because I always had it in my head. The song Serious may have been planned as another single, as a video was shot for it, but it was ultimately unreleased. A clip of it leaked in 2006, and shows Gwen dancing with the Harajuku Girls, a dance troupe that she formed for her solo era, and went on to go on tour with her and make appearances with her for the rest of her career. This clip is really fun, and represents the bubbly, 80s pop-inspired sound of the song really well. It's not exactly clear why it went unreleased, but I'm guessing maybe they cancelled releasing the song as a single, so the video got the axe as well. I don't know if that's true or not, but if anyone has any insight into what happened, I'd love to hear it. I couldn't really find any information online about it. Only one other song, The Real Thing, was released as a promotional single in the Philippines, and I fully believe this could have been a smash if it was a proper single. A synthy new wave ballad, The Real Thing draws heavy inspiration from the band New Order, who she actually contacted while she was making the song to see if they'd collab on it. Since they were busy making their own album, they declined doing a full-on collab, though members Bernard Summer and Peter Hook did end up providing backing vocals and playing bass on the track. This song is so ethereal and dreamy. Gwen sounds so pretty and genuinely in love on it, which makes it pretty sad knowing it's about her now ex-husband Gavin Rossdale. Still, The Real Thing is one of my favorite songs from her. It makes me ascend, I swear to God, it's one of those songs. L.A.M.B. also had 2 songs featuring Andre 3000 from Outkast. The first one, called Bubble Pop Electric, gives off strong Grease vibes, with Gwen and Andre playing 2 seemingly high school kids in the 1950s on their way to a drive-in movie, where they'll be getting into some shenanigans in the backseat. Another song with car metaphors for sex, I love it. This song is so much fun. I love how there's actual bubbles popping as sound effects in the background, and Gwen and Andre really sell the whole promiscuous 50s movie vibe really well. Their other collab, Long Way to Go, was actually meant for the Outkast album The Love Below, but was reworked to be on Gwen's album. It's probably the most experimental track, being a fast-paced electropop, dance, and soul song about interracial dating, and including a sample of Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. It is something, and a very interesting choice to end the album on. I'm not sure if it works or not, but I still do like it. It is a little more low-key than the other tracks, especially the one that comes right before it, Danger Zone, which is a banger, by the way. Regardless of whether the song works or not, it definitely exemplifies Gwen's willingness to experiment and be more left of center than other contemporary pop acts. L.A.M.B. as a whole was a strange record. You had cheerleader chants, musical theater interpolations, 80s new wave, rock, and electropop, mixed with hip-hop and R&B, all blended together to make a truly unique product. And despite all the chaoticness that's going on sonically, Gwen manages to keep her distinct personality at the forefront. No one could sell this album like she does, and that's why it remains a staple of 2000s pop culture. It also played a role in pop acts incorporating more hip-hop into their projects, with albums like Nelly Furtado's Loose and Fergie's The Duchess similarly being hip-hop and pop fusions. And that's not to say this album was the reason those albums exist at all, but Gwen definitely helped in bridging the gap between hip-hop and pop in the mid-2000s by working with artists and producers like Dr. Dre, Eve, The Neptunes, and Andre 3000. If you haven't heard it in a while, definitely go back and give it a listen, or at least listen to the singles, as they're some of the best pop songs of the 2000s. Gwen came, saw, taught us all how to spell bananas, and conquered.